What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It's your boy Goblin, and today we're coming in with an absolute banger of a video. Hope you guys enjoy this one. Drop a like if you do. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And also, I got a little sneak peek to show you guys. Now, these are not engraved yet. There's no logo or design on them yet. But take a look at the colors on this only gas grinder. We're only making 200 of these. They're coming soon. But just look at the shade of blue. These came out way sexier than I could have ever imagined. Absolutely gorgeous. Just giving you guys a little sneak peek. Those grinders are going to be dropping within the next month or so. So if you guys want to follow that and get exact drop dates and everything, make sure to follow me on Twitter, linked in the description. Thank you guys for the support and making these possible. I'm super excited to drop these, and I hope you guys are too. Without further ado, let's dive right into the video. So this just happened last Thursday, less than a week ago now. And I knew as soon as this trip was over that I needed to make a trip report video for you guys, because this was one of the most intense trips that I've ever had in my life. Now, I want to start this off by saying, first off, yes, I tested this shit, and yes, it was legit. So I didn't take any bad acid, I didn't, get a 25 hide or anything like that. I just took some tabs that absolutely beat my fucking ass. So normally, I get my tabs from a pretty consistent and trusted source. The dosage on those tabs that I'm told is 110 UG. Now, I believe that dosage because A, they don't feel like they're super high dosed, and B, I've been getting them from the same source for a while. Now, this time around, my normal acid source was out of stock, so I had to venture out a little bit. I stumbled upon some tabs, and where I got them from is not super relevant. That's not really the focus of this video. This is meant to be a trip report, but just a little bit of background detail that I feel is important. These tabs were advertised to me as double dose. 175 UG is what I was told the dosage was. Now, everyone and their grandmother always says their tabs are double dose, so I didn't really think much of it. That was my first mistake. I should have fucking listened. I'm telling you right now, I should have listened because, oh my God, I'm going to be completely honest. I've taken a lot of tabs from a lot of different sources in my life. I'm not sure if I've ever taken tabs that were this strong in my life. In all honesty, I think 175 UG was a low ball. I feel like these were higher because this was one of the most intense trips of my life. But either way, I got my hands on a 10 strip of these tabs, and normally that's the amount that I like to re-up on. It gives me wiggle room to save some for another day, or maybe redose pretty often and take a lot, but either way, I never find myself running out when I have a 10 strip, even if I have a person or two with me. So I grabbed this 10 strip and, I was up in Chicago for the week with my girlfriend. We got in a hotel and we had a lot of plans. We went to a nice restaurant, chilled out, had a lot of fun, went to museums, doing the typical Chicago shit, getting hot dogs, pizza, all that shit. Just having some fun. I took a little break, if you will. And we specifically booked a hotel that had a really sick view and a balcony to prepare for our trip. We did everything we could to make sure that we were going to have a great trip. I brought my PlayStation up to the hotel. We had a bunch of toys. We had like Legos. We had kinetic sand. I'm talking we had enough shit to keep a 3-year-old entertained for a week straight. Absolutely endless opportunity. So we'd been up in Chicago for a few days with this 10 strip and we hadn't taken it yet. And Thursday rolled around and Ashley and I, my girlfriend, we tripped together plenty of times at this point. I wouldn't say like plenty, maybe that was an overstatement, but we've tripped together probably 3 or 4 times at this point, which is enough for me to, be comfortable in the fact that she can handle herself. When we first met, she had only taken acid one time before meeting me, so I remember my first time tripping with her, I was a little worried about how she'd handle it, but she'd had a great time every time. Part of the reason being is we always came prepared. Usually when I tripped with her, I would always do those 110 UG tabs that I was telling you guys about earlier. So we always knew exactly what to expect, exactly how to dose, and exactly how it would feel and go. With these tabs, things were a little different, and the mistake I made was not treating them like double dose tabs at all. I just outright did not believe that they were double dose. I'm so used to hearing that shit that I was like, okay, whatever, yada yada, dude, there's some fucking tabs. Let's take them. So we start off and we don't really have any plans for the day. We were originally planning to maybe potentially go to the aquarium because that would be cool tripping. But looking back at it, I'm very glad we didn't because we probably would have gotten the cops called on us. But either way, we start out in the afternoon and it's about 1 p.m. So it's pretty early in the day. We decide that we've got nothing better to do, so it's time to dose. I take these tabs and I break one off of the strip and I rip it in half. I always like to start out with half a tab. I'm usually not the kind of guy who takes just a big dose and then doesn't redose at all. I like to have a light to moderate trip for an extended period of time. So I'll start out with half a tab, but usually throughout the duration of my trips, I'll consume 2 to 3 tabs total just gradually over time to kind of ease myself into a nice smooth trip. That was my initial plan with these tabs. I started off with half a tab, and Ashley and I both took that half, and to start off, everything was pretty good, you know? We started getting some visuals pretty quickly, and I was feeling to come up within a good 30 to 45 minutes after dosing. These were a little stronger than the tabs before, and I could already tell because I was getting some pretty strong visuals just on the come up. I was starting to see a lot of tracers, and the colors were very vibrant, and I was staring at the wall for a long time. There was a curtain along the wall, and it had this slight pattern on it, but the tabs that I'd taken made the pattern really pop and almost look like some sort of 3D maze, and I was trying to solve it with my brain, even though that was never ever gonna happen. I was feeling really awesome off this half tab, and so was Ashley. She commented on how the visuals were really nice, and she was starting to trip, and everything was off to a fantastic start. Now, we chilled off that half tab for maybe 2 or 3 hours, and we didn't really do much of anything. It was just a half tab dose, so nothing got too crazy quite yet. I was playing a little bit of Elden Ring, and we were chilling out, messing with the kinetic sand that we had, which, by the way, if you're looking for some cool shit to mess with while you're tripping, go get kinetic sand. That shit is dope while you're tripping. It's so colorful. It feels so cool in your hands. Like, listen, when you take acid, you turn into a little 3-year-old with mental disabilities. And what would a little 3-year-old that's mentally disabled love to play with? Some fucking sand. So trust me, get kinetic sand. But either way, we're messing with this sand and it looks really dope. And you know, we're feeling really good. But we decided that we weren't really tripping hard enough yet. We wanted to actually full on trip. And this was where we made a mistake. See, I didn't realize it quite yet, but we were on very thin ice already. We were right at the threshold of crossing over into tripping way too hard. I did not realize that yet, so we redosed another half tab. Now, mind you, this was allegedly only 175 UG total that we had dosed, but speaking from my experience of having taken a lot of quote-unquote double-dose tabs in my life, these are probably one of the only tabs where I actually thought they were double-dose. I'd argue that these were a higher dosage than 175 UG, because after we took the redose, shit hit the fan. I remember she got on FaceTime with a couple of her friends in her little, girls group chat or whatever, and while she was on FaceTime, I was just laying in bed playing Elden Ring. Until all of the sudden, maybe 45 minutes to an hour after the redose, I'm like, yo, we should take a fucking dab. My visuals were getting intense and I was already tripping really fucking hard, and that redose was slapping me in the face. And for some reason, I thought it would be a brilliant idea to take an absolutely massive dab. Now, this was a rookie mistake of mine. I got cocky. I way overestimated my ability to handle these tabs. I was like, oh, dude, I've done acid a million times before. This trip humbled me. I'm not gonna lie. This trip sat me down, smacked me upside the head, and said, bitch, you're gonna listen to me. And I fucking did. You see, I got out of bed and the visuals were just going crazy, boys. I'm talking beautiful. It started to look like everything was neon in the room. I'm talking the game I was playing, the lights in the room, even the fucking rig that I was about to hit looked like it was neon. I had really, really cool visuals on this trip. Some of the most memorable I've ever had. So I heat up my banger and I get a dab ready, and of course I'm feeling reckless, and I scrape what was probably a 0.3 or 0.4 gram dab, almost a half grammer. I busted open a fresh 1 gram container and scooped out nearly half of it. This was an absolutely giant dab, especially for while you're tripping. And for those of you guys who are new to psychedelics or maybe have never done it, a word of advice is if you're already tripping really fucking hard and you don't want to trip any harder, don't take a dab. I made the grave mistake of doing so. See, I dropped this huge ass dab, and I ripped it, and there was so much goop in the banger that Ashley got to hit it too. So we're passing the rig back and forth, and I dropped it at pretty low temp. You have to drop kind of higher than usual for these bigger dabs, but I still dropped it at about 480, which was a bit higher than my usual, but high, still low enough to really savor the dab and make it smoke for a long time. So Ashley and I are passing this rig back and forth, and we finish this dab off and go lay back down in bed. Maybe another 20 minutes go by, and shit quite literally hit the fan. I remember laying in bed beside Ashley, and she was still on her phone talking to her friends, somehow managing to hold a conversation. And the dab hit me first. It hit her almost right after, but it slapped me in the face first. I was laying in bed, and I just remember I got this feeling running through my body, almost like a tingling feeling. And my visuals went absolutely haywire. If you guys ever look through like a kaleidoscope or something like that, you know that little thing you look through where it like makes everything repeated 6 or 7 times and makes it into a cool pattern? That is exactly what my visuals turned into. It was like my brain disconnected from reality, and I no longer understood anything I was looking at. Like, I would look over at the TV stand, but I wasn't able to process what was on it. I didn't understand what my PlayStation was. This is a really hard feeling for me to describe, but like, I had a full-on disconnect from reality. I then realized how hard I was actually tripping, and for a moment, I tried to kind of regain my bearings. I stood up and I got out of bed and I walked over to the bathroom, and I was just kind of aimlessly pacing through the room, trying to find something that looked normal. The visuals were getting overwhelming for me because, if I'm being totally honest, I don't know if I've ever had visuals this intense in my whole life. Normally it's like, yeah, I'll get some tracers, or I'll get like, things will be moving or look like they're textured, or maybe the wall will look like it's really a GIF or like a video playing. But this was different, dude. This was so different. It felt like, if you've ever seen those scenes in the movies where like the spaceships go at warp speed and everything around it becomes a blur of colors, that's exactly what was happening to me. And I was getting super overwhelmed. But I was trying to remain calm because once I walked into the bathroom was very plain. It was almost all white tile everywhere, including the walls and the ceiling, and being in the bathroom kind of helped me get my bearings a little bit. But I didn't even realize that I was just pacing around saying, "oh fuck," over and over. So Ashley got out of bed and came over to me, and she was like, "are you okay?" And then it hit her in the face too. She starts freaking the fuck out. After asking me if I'm okay, she like pauses for a minute, and she's like, babe, and I'm like, what? Like, what's going on, She's like, I think I'm having a bad trip. And I'm like, what the fuck do you mean by that? I'm sitting there thinking to myself, yo, There's no way I can handle her having a bad trip right now. I barely know where I am or what my cock looks like. This is about to be madness. But she like grabs onto me, and I can tell she's freaking out at this point. She's getting way more overwhelmed than me. So I kind of realize that I gotta get myself together pretty quickly. She's freaking out, and she's like, oh my God, like I'm having a bad trip. Did we take bad acid? And she starts talking really, really quickly and having a full-on panic attack. Now, I'm sitting there, and at this point, I'm like, okay, I gotta calm her down. So I take a moment to just kind of breathe, and I explain to her, I'm like, listen, it's not bad acid. We just took a fat fucking dab, and also these tabs are way stronger than we thought. I'm trying to explain to her, like, listen, we're in the hotel room. We're okay, you know, because deep down, I still mentally understood where I was. I still knew what was going on. It's just visually, I didn't recognize what was going on. It was a very strange feeling. Like, looking around, it just looked like such a alien universe that I was standing in. It looked nothing like the hotel room I was in even an hour earlier. It was so insane. But I'm sitting there and I'm trying to explain to her, I'm like, take a deep breath, like we're in our hotel room, we're okay, we're just tripping fucking balls right now. And she's like, she keeps saying over and over, she's like, do you think we took bad acid? And I'm like, no, we actually took really fucking good acid. We just absolutely weren't ready for it to be this good. And I'm trying to calm her down a little bit. And honestly, her freaking out in a weird way helped me calm down a little bit because I had something to do, if that makes any sense. Like, my brain settled down and now I had something to focus on. So it helped keep me grounded in a weird way. You know, now instead of me freaking out, it was like, okay, I got no time to freak out. She's freaking out. I got to make sure we're good, you know? So I kind of walk her back over to the bed and sit her down, and I'm like, yo, let's just chill out for a little bit, you know? My visuals are crazy. And I asked her, I was like, hey, you want to go out to the balcony? Let's, like, check out the view. It might be cool. That freaked her the fuck out. I got up and I walked towards the door. We had a sliding glass door that led out to the balcony, and she like grabbed me and physically restrained me. She's like, no, don't go out there. Don't go out there. And I'm like, why? Like, what's wrong? Like, why can't I go out there? And she's like, no, something really bad is going to happen. And she kept repeating that. And I was like, okay, like, sure, I won't go out there, you know, like, let me open the curtains at least, you know, so we can get a cool view. She was okay with that. She just didn't want me going out on the balcony for some reason, which I understood why a little later. But at this point, I was still very confused about that. I didn't really get what the issue with the balcony was. So I opened up the window and I'm sitting there. And we're just kind of laying in bed trying to calm down. We're laying together, you know, she's rested up against me. And I am just looking all around the room, breathing fast as all hell. I'm, you know, deep down panicking a little bit, quite honestly, because I realize that we're only a few hours into this trip and we just redosed. She's already having a terrible time and I'm overwhelmed. So this can't be going anywhere positive. But at the same time, I also realize that this doesn't last forever, and all I have to do to get rid of this feeling is fall asleep at some point, which naturally is gonna happen. Having that thought in my head really kept me grounded. And here's a little tip for anyone out there who might have an overwhelming trip or even a bad trip. Just always remember that it's not forever. It ends eventually. You will come down. It might not feel like it, but you will come down. Probably sooner than you think, you know? I remember when I was first getting overwhelmed with all these visuals and this tingling going through my body, I was sitting there thinking to myself, dude, I'm going to be like this for 12 hours straight. But then I kind of thought rationally and I was like, well, I'm not going to be peaking the whole time. That's just what's happening right now. I'm peaking harder than I've ever peaked in my life. I feel like I'm on top of Everest, butt-ass naked, jacking off, and a plane just flew past and all the passengers saw, and I don't give a fuck. The body feeling I had, the body high from these tabs was incredible. Even though I was feeling a little nervous and a little uncomfortable, I also felt this super intense euphoria where I was just optimistic about shit. Like I was like, yo, this is fucking dope. Even though I can't comprehend shit, this is awesome. And you know what really helped keep me grounded as we were laying in bed? Playing Elden Ring. For some odd reason, I had my PlayStation hooked up, right? And I could not comprehend any other video game. I tried playing Horizon Zero Dawn, couldn't even read the instructions. I tried playing the Jumanji game because I thought it would be fun while I'm tripping. Once again, my brain couldn't even process the instructions. But I got on Elden Ring and I unlocked my inner fucking gamer off these tabs. I remember Ashley and I were laying there and I was telling her, I was like, look, this game, all the colors are bright, the enemies are glowing. Like, why don't we just chill out and we'll switch the controller around or something? Now, she only played one life. She got clapped and immediately passed it back to me. But I smoked like 5 fucking bosses while I was tripping. 2 of them I smoked in the first 3 tries. I don't know what it was, but Elden Ring was really keeping me grounded because for some reason it was the only thing in the room that my brain was still able to process. I was still able to understand the game and my objective, and killing these bosses while I was tripping gave me this sense of accomplishment and this dopamine rush that I'd almost never felt doing anything else before. I mean, it was incredible. The feeling I got when I finally beat a boss that I've been trying to kill for 30 minutes. I sat on Elden Ring and played for a good 2 hours, 3 hours straight with Ashley just laying beside me, and we kind of started to feel a little bit better. Now, we weren't quite out of the woodwork yet. Shit was still pretty ugly. At this point, I got off Elden Ring for a bit to try to do something else, and shit got worse once again. Ashley brought up the idea of calling the police because she was so overwhelmed. She was like, should we call the cops? I was like, yo, no. Absolutely fucking not. We should not call the cops. That sounds like the worst idea I've ever heard in my life. So I had to do a little bit of trip sitting. But I'm not going to lie, it was really, really difficult to do because I was kind of trip sitting myself at the same time. I was just barely maintaining control of this trip. It was like riding a fucking bull, dude. These tabs were beating my ass and that dab absolutely didn't help. But listen, this is going to be way too long if we continue here, so I think we're going to split this into 2 parts. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Drop a like if you do, and get ready for part 2 coming soon. Thank you guys for watching this one. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out, gamers.